The original Gladiator movie is very nostalgic to me, as I'm sure it is to many, many people. It was one of the first R-rated movies that I saw in cinemas, and I remember being in awe at just some of the gore and the violence, and just feeling like I was one of the cool people that I was allowed to see this movie. My older sister took me to see it, but she did have my mom's permission. That was 24 years ago, and now here we are with a long overdue sequel that many people probably assumed was never going to happen. Is Gladiator 2 as good as the original? Let's discuss. Gladiator 2 stars Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, Connie Britton, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, and Fred Hettinger. In this movie, we follow a man named Lucius as he is forced into slavery, much like Russell Crowe's character Maximus in the first film. And actually, you'll notice that I said his name is Lucius. If you are a fan of that first movie, you'll recognize that Lucius is actually the name of the little kid that was in the first movie. One thing that is immediately clear about this movie is that it's not a rush job. Ridley Scott clearly poured a lot of time and love into creating this very awesome world. And you can see the advantage that 24 years of progression offers. This movie looks better than ever. Ridley Scott has certainly become known, at least in my mind, as the master of epics. Nobody knows how to shoot a war movie, a big scale battle, quite as well as him. You could say that this is his bread and butter. He does so well every time with this. He has a long list of movies that fit under this category, and they all really stand up quite well, and this is no exception. Paul Mescal has had one hell of a Hollywood fairy tale story. If you look at his IMDb page, you'll see that he's only been in the movie biz since 2019, yet he's already starring in a Ridley Scott movie. That's one hell of a glow up. I think I used that right. If I didn't, you know what I mean. There's people who've literally been in the movie business for 20 years plus and still haven't gotten the chance to star in a Ridley Scott action movie. So, there you go, Paul Mescal. This guy is doing really well for himself. But watching this movie, it's clear to see why he's had such a boom in his career. This man has a natural energy that really reminds me of a younger Russell Crowe. He can pull off action, he can pull off emotion, and he does it all while maintaining a down-to-earth charm that really resonates and makes his character seem less drab and a bit more relatable. His character is going through a similar plot line to Maximus in that first movie. He's captured, he's sold into slavery, and he's forced to compete in gladiator games at the behest of his owner. In the original movie, the gladiator trainer slash owner was Oliver Reed. He's a man who unfortunately passed before the movie could be finished filming. In this movie, the slave owner slash gladiator trainer owner person is played by none other than Denzel Washington. And I'm very excited to talk about Denzel, but first I want to quickly jump over to these two crazy emperors that we have in this movie, because instead of having one, like the first movie, we've got two of these motherfuckers. Joseph Quinn and Fred Hettinger star as the two crazy emperors, and they make Joaquin Phoenix's character appear almost normal and sane. And by the way, I'm sure you've noticed that I am wearing a Stranger Things Hellfire Club hoodie, and no, I am not wearing this because of Joseph Quinn being in this movie, although fans of Stranger Things will know that Joseph Quinn was the leader of the Hellfire Club. No, but really, I'm wearing this because it's Florida cold, and I just feel chilly. Both of these emperors are cruel and enjoy watching misery, but are sure to be memorable characters. I think both of these characters are going to stand out. They do stand up well against Joaquin Phoenix. They are going to be memorable because they are not the exact same. One of them is just straight up insane, talking nonsense through a lot of the movie, just wanting to see death. He reminded me of just a little kid with a power trip. Joseph Quinn's character is a bit more subdued, yet he still has enough insane qualities that he probably should not be leading a city. But speaking of glow-ups and careers, like I mentioned about Paul Mescal, Joseph Quinn, this guy is doing excellent. He starred in Stranger Things, and he made a big splash. Everybody really enjoyed his character. There's been actually fan petitions for him to come back to life. Who knows if that's going to happen, but now he's starring in not only a Ridley Scott movie, he is going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie as the Human Torch, and he also was just in this year's A Quiet Place Day One. This man, like Paul Mescal, is doing really well for himself. Now let's jump right the hell back over to Denzel Washington, because probably my biggest surprise in this movie was this guy. I love Denzel Washington. I'm sure a lot of people love Denzel Washington. He has a great career that he has accomplished. He has done a lot of different types of roles, and it was surprising to see him play this kind of a character. I know he's played a villain before, but it feels like it's been a while, and I just thought he was never going to do it again. And in this movie, he's playing a guy who is a slave owner, and he is just very out of touch. He's a man that has a chip on his shoulder. He's got his own past reasons for the things that he's doing in this movie, and throughout this movie, you do come to learn more about his past and what exactly his motivations are. But I really enjoyed Denzel's performance in this movie. It was just classic Denzel mixed with a slightly older version of that classic Denzel, mixed with a crazy Gladiator storyline. His character is elegant and exudes royalty, but at the same time, he has the feeling of an outsider. After all, he is a black man in a sea of pasty white people. He's gonna stand out, and you're gonna be asking questions. Why is this man here? He may have been playing a bad guy in this movie, but I loved every single scene he was in. Denzel Washington, man, you just never let me down. I love it, guy. I love it. We also have some returning faces in this movie. Connie Nielsen returns as Lucilla, and we even have Derek Jacobi come back. Not gonna lie, I was shocked as fuck to see this man in this movie. He looked old as hell back in the original Gladiator movie. I did not know. I thought he was dead. I'm sorry. It would be very wrong of me to not mention Pedro Pascal. He is Hollywood's favorite dad, although he's not a father in this movie, at least not that they make clear. But he does an excellent job in this movie. Fans of Pedro, you'll be happy. He's a man that has a lot of honor, and he really wants to see Rome return to its former glory. And he is serving these two crazy emperors, but he's not necessarily on board with anything that they have to offer. I don't think Pedro Pascal does any kind of bad performance, but I don't want this review to get too long, so I'm gonna move on. Bringing out sequels this far out, this far after the original movie can be a very risky endeavor. Most times when a sequel takes this long and when it finally comes along, it pales in comparison to the original movie. We do have a few examples where the sequel, the long overdue sequel, does turn out to be really good. I can think of The Godfather 2. Everyone quotes that one. I actually am not sure. Aliens, that one is a very good movie that came out far after the original Alien movie. Terminator 2. So it's not unheard of that sequels can be as good, if not better, than the original movie. Now, sure, I will say I do think this movie follows very similar story beats. It has very similar plot points to that first movie, and you could say that that is a lack of creativity, and I'm not sure if I would disagree, but I will say that the way they told the story beats is freshened up enough that it felt fresh and unique, and it didn't feel like a complete retread. It has thrilling action, it's beautifully shot, and it's filled with characters that will surely stick with you. I think this movie is well worth a trip to the cinema. For me, this movie is a 9.5 out of 10. I have never done a 9.5. This is my first time. Like I said, I think the following of similar story beats is merits for docking it a little bit, because I do think it's pulling a little bit of a Star Wars Episode 7. It has a lot of similarities to that first movie, but it's not a deal breaker because it's fresh enough that it doesn't feel like a complete retread. But I think it's worth mentioning. So that's the reason I brought it down just a tad bit. Did you see this movie yet? Did you like it? If you did, or if you didn't, please put your thoughts on it in the comments. Did you like this video? If you did, then hit that little like button. It's a thumb. You can find it. It's very easy to find. It's right down there. And if you want to hear more things from me, subscribe to this channel. Later.